I found a woman's earring between my couch cushions. On a Monday morning, my boyfriend said he had no idea where it came from, but by Friday, I had proof he'd been bringing her into our brand new home every single time I worked the night shift. I almost threw it away. That's the thing that keeps me up sometimes. Not the betrayal itself, but how close I came to just tossing it in the trash and moving on with my Monday. It was small, gold, heart-shaped. The kind of earring you'd find at any mall in America for $12. It meant nothing on its own, except it wasn't mine, and I knew every single thing in that house that was mine. My name is Kayla Bennett. I'm 29 years old, and I work night shifts at a regional medical center 40 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio. I've been a nurse for 5 years, which means I have seen enough of real life, the unfiltered, unglamorous, often brutal version of it, that I like to think I am not easily fooled. I say like to think because this story is partly about how wrong I was about that. I met Derek Shaw at a friend's backyard barbecue 3 summers ago. He was tall, easy to talk to, the kind of guy who laughs at his own jokes half a second before he finishes telling them. He worked in project management for a mid-sized construction firm. Stable job, stable personality, no obvious red flags. I know how that sounds now. No obvious red flags. Like I'm reading from a checklist I wish I'd paid more attention to. We dated for 2 years before we moved in together, and honestly, it was fine. Good even. He remembered my coffee order. He came to my hospital's holiday party and charmed every single one of my co-workers. My mom liked him, which with my mom is not a small thing. 4 months ago, we bought a house. A real house. 3 bedrooms, a backyard that needed work, original hardwood floors that creaked in all the right places. We spent an entire weekend painting the living room a shade of blue-gray called Quiet Storm that I had agonized over for 3 weeks. We assembled furniture together and argued mildly about where the couch should go and ordered pizza at 10 p.m. because neither of us had the energy to cook. It was ours. Mine, I want to be specific about, because the financial details matter to this story and I'm not going to skip over them. I put in 60% of the down payment. My credit score carried the mortgage approval. Derek contributed his share monthly, but the house existed largely because of my savings, my credit, my 5 years of night shifts and skipped vacations. I want you to hold on to that. My schedule runs Thursday through Sunday nights, 12-hour shifts, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday mornings, I come home depleted in the specific way that only night shift workers understand. Not just tired, but hollowed out, like someone reached in and scooped out the part of you that knows what time it is or why it matters. That Monday, the Monday of the earring, I came home at 7:40 a.m. Derek had already left for work. The house was quiet. The coffee maker was still warm, which meant he'd made a pot and not saved me any, which was a minor annoyance I had trained myself not to make into a bigger deal than it was. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, walked to the couch to sit down for exactly 5 minutes before dragging myself upstairs to sleep. I sat down, and something poked me. Not hard, just a small, sharp little pressure on my left thigh. I reached into the cushion gap automatically, the way you do when you're fishing for the TV remote, and my fingers closed around something small and metal. I pulled it out. Gold, heart-shaped. A stud earring with a small butterfly backing still attached. I held it up in the gray morning light coming through the windows we'd picked out together. I don't wear gold. I'm a silver person, have been since college. Every piece of jewelry I own is silver. Derek knew this. He'd bought me a silver bracelet for my birthday 6 months ago that I still wore every day. This earring was not mine. Here is what I want to tell you about that moment because I think it's important. I did not panic. I did not immediately assume the worst. I am, by nature and by profession, a person who requires evidence before conclusions. I sat on that couch and I ran through the reasonable explanations with the same calm I use when a patient's numbers look wrong and I need to figure out why before I call the doctor. My friend Becca had been over 2 weekends ago. Did Becca wear gold earrings? I genuinely couldn't remember. Derek's sister had stopped by last month. Could be hers. Could have been there since before we moved in, somehow missed during cleaning. Reasonable, I told myself. There are reasonable explanations. I set the earring on the kitchen counter. I went upstairs. I slept for 6 hours. When I woke up, Derek was home. He was in the kitchen making sandwiches, still in his work clothes, and he looked up and smiled when I came downstairs and said, "Hey, Sleepy. Good shift?" "Rough one," I said. And then, because I am apparently incapable of letting things sit, "Hey, do you know whose earring this is?" I held it up. He looked at it. 1 second, 2. "Huh," he said. "No idea. Maybe it was there when we moved in? Casual, unbothered, sandwich making uninterrupted." "Maybe," I said. I watched his hands. They didn't stop moving. Didn't hesitate. He kept layering turkey and Swiss like a man with absolutely nothing on his mind, and I stood in my kitchen in my own house and made the same mistake I'd made 100 times in my life. I believed him because believing him was easier. But here's the thing about being a night shift nurse. You develop a very specific relationship with details. You notice things other people don't because not noticing can cost someone their life. You build habits of observation that don't turn off when you leave the hospital. Over the next 3 days, I noticed things. Small things. The kind that don't mean anything alone, but start to form a shape when you line them up. Tuesday. I found a throw pillow on the floor behind the couch. I never put pillows on the floor. Derek never put pillows on the floor. It was just there, like it had been knocked off and not fully cleaned up. Wednesday. I went to light the candle on the bathroom shelf, a candle I'd bought and placed there myself, and the wick was already burned, recently. I hadn't lit it in at least 2 weeks. Thursday morning, coming home from my shift, the recycling bin had 2 wine glasses in it. We own 4 wine glasses. I'd used one on Sunday with Becca. Derek didn't drink wine. I stood at the recycling bin in my driveway in my scrubs at 7:45 in the morning, holding a wine glass up to the light. There was a faint lipstick mark on the rim, not my shade. Not even close. I went inside. I set my bag down. I stood in the kitchen of the house I had bought with my savings and my credit and my 5 years of night shifts. And I made a decision. I was not going to confront him. Not yet. Not until I had something that couldn't be explained away with no idea, and a sandwich. I had 4 days until my next set of shifts. I was going to use every single one of them. I started with the one thing in our house that Derek didn't know I had access to. 4 months ago, when we set up the home security system, Derek had handled the app on his phone. What he didn't know, because I hadn't mentioned it and he hadn't asked, was that I had also downloaded the same app on my old iPad and logged in with the same account credentials the same night. I hadn't touched it since, until Thursday afternoon, when I opened it and hit View Saved Footage. And then I sat down very slowly on the kitchen floor because the camera above our front door had been recording every single Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night for 4 months. Every night I worked. Every single one. I want to be precise about what I felt sitting on that kitchen floor with the iPad in my hands, because I think people expect a certain kind of emotion in this moment, and what I actually felt was not that. I did not cry. I did not feel hot rage, the kind that makes you throw things. What I felt was cold. A specific spreading coldness that started in my chest and moved outward, the way contrast dye moves through a patient's veins on a scan, illuminating everything it touches, making visible the things that were always there but hidden. I felt more than anything else accurate, like my body had already known and had simply been waiting for my brain to catch up. The app stored 30 days of motion-triggered footage, organized by date and timestamp. I started at the beginning, 4 weeks back, and I watched with the same focus I bring to a 12-hour shift. The pattern was immediate and unmistakable. Every Thursday, every Friday, every Saturday, without exception. Between 9 and 10 p.m., roughly 2 hours after I left for work, a woman arrived at our front door. Derek always opened it before she knocked, which meant he was watching for her. I watched her walk into my house 11 times in 30 days. She was pretty. I registered that the way you register the weather, as a fact, not a feeling. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Dark hair, usually in a ponytail. She dressed casually. Jeans, sneakers, occasionally a jacket I started to recognize. She never arrived empty-handed. Most nights she was carrying something. A bag, a bottle of wine, once a pizza box. She left between 1 and 2 a.m. on most nights. One Friday, she didn't leave until 5:30 a.m. I worked until 7. She was gone from my house a full 90 minutes before I came home to it. I watched all of it, every clip. I took screenshots with a methodical thoroughness that I think would have impressed my charge nurse. I noted dates and times in the Notes app on my phone. I was calm and organized and efficient, and I did not stop until I had documented every single visit. Then I sat back and I thought about what I actually had. Video of a woman entering and leaving our home repeatedly while I was at work. Consistent pattern. Damning, yes, but Derek was smart enough, I knew, to claim she was a friend, a colleague, someone who needed a place to stay. He was a good talker. He had a natural, unhurried confidence that made his explanations feel reasonable, even when they weren't. I needed more. I needed something he couldn't talk his way around. I closed the security app and opened my laptop. We shared a laptop, a practical decision when we moved in, since mine was newer and his was dying. He had his own login, but we both knew each other's passwords, the way couples do when trust feels like such a given that privacy feels unnecessary. I logged into his account. I wasn't proud of it. I want to be honest about that. I believe in privacy. I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. I believe in asking before assuming. I had asked. He had said, no idea. So I looked. His browser history was mostly cleared. Regularly, I noticed. Which was itself an answer, but his email was logged in. And Derek, who was organized about his work inbox and careless about everything else, had not deleted a folder titled, "I am not making this up, MISC." I opened it. There were 43 emails. I am going to tell you about 2 of them, because those 2 were enough. The first was from 4 months ago. 2 weeks before we closed on the house. It was from Derek to an email address I didn't recognize. A name, Jess, and a string of numbers, and it said, in its entirety, closing date confirmed for the 14th. She's putting in 60%, so the mortgage is basically handled. I'll have keys by end of month. You'll have space. Just need a little more time. She's putting in 60%. Not we, not us. I was not his partner in this house. I was his financing. The second email was more recent. 3 weeks ago. Same address. It said, looking at the Elmwood listings again. 2 bedrooms, your price range. If we time this right, we can be out by spring. She won't see it coming. She won't see it coming. I read that sentence 4 times. He wasn't just cheating on me in my house. He was planning to leave me, strategically on a timeline, in a way designed to maximize what he could walk away with and minimize what I could do about it. He had been using my down payment, my mortgage, my credit, building equity in my house, while simultaneously planning his exit with another woman. The earring wasn't careless. Derek wasn't careless. Derek was running out of reasons to be careful anymore. I closed the laptop. I went upstairs. I stood in our bathroom, the one with the candle he'd lit for her, and I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. I thought about 5 years of night shifts. I thought about the down payment I'd saved while working holidays and missing Christmases and running on 4 hours of sleep. I thought about the Sunday we painted the living room. Quiet storm, and I'd had paint in my hair for 3 days, and I hadn't even minded because the house felt like ours. It was never ours. I was the only one who thought it was. I called my best friend, Danielle. Danny and I have been friends since nursing school. She is the kind of person who, when you call her with something terrible, doesn't say, "Are you sure?" Or maybe there's an explanation. She listens. She asks one question, and then she says, "Okay, what do you need?" I told her everything. The earring, the footage, the emails, the Elmwood listings, silence. Then, that absolute, and several words, I will not repeat here, but that I found deeply comforting. Then, "Okay, what do you need?" "I need a real estate attorney," I said, "and I need to know what my options are before he knows that I know." "My cousin Marcus," she said immediately. "Real estate law. I'm calling him tonight." "Danny," Kayla. Her voice was steady and warm and fierce all at once. "You bought that house. Not him, you. We are going to make sure that is crystal clear before this is over." I had one more thing to do before Derek came home. The woman's name from the email address was Jess. I had her email. I had, from cross-referencing Derek's sent folder, her last name. I found her Instagram in 4 minutes. Public profile. Lifestyle content, mostly at coffee shops, hiking photos, an occasional gym selfie. Normal, relatable. The page of someone living her regular life. Her most recent post was 2 days ago. A picture of a sunrise from what looked like a hiking trail. The caption said, "New week, new start. Feeling grateful for the people who are honest with me." I stared at that caption for a long time, and a thought occurred to me. Slow and careful and not fully formed yet. The way the best ideas always start. What if she doesn't know? Derek came home that evening at 6:15, and I had dinner on the stove and a completely normal expression on my face. And he kissed me on the cheek and said, "Smells good," and I handed him a glass of water and smiled. And while he was in the shower, I opened Instagram and typed the first message I had ever sent to a stranger that I genuinely did not know how to finish. "Hi, my name is Kayla. I think we need to talk. I don't think you know about me, and I'm starting to think that's not your fault." I hit send, and then I made dinner for a man I was done with, in a house that was mine, and I waited. She responded in 40 minutes. I was washing dishes when my phone buzzed. I dried my hands on the dish towel, slowly, deliberately, the way you do when you're buying yourself. One more second before something changes, and I read her message. "Who is this? How do you know Derek?" Cautious, guarded, but she hadn't said, "I don't know what you're talking about," and she hadn't blocked me, which told me something. I typed back, "I'm his girlfriend. We've been together 3 years. We bought a house together 4 months ago. I have security footage of you coming to that house every week while I work nights. I don't think he told you about me. I could be wrong, but I needed to reach out." I put my phone face down on the counter. I went back to washing dishes. Derek was in the living room watching TV, occasionally laughing at something, completely unbothered. I watched the soap run off a plate and thought about how strange it was to be standing in the middle of your own life coming apart while the person who broke it laughed at a sitcom 15 feet away. My phone buzzed again. "He told me you were his roommate." I read it twice. His roommate. 3 years, a house. My 60%. His roommate. I typed, "Can we talk?" "Not here. Tomorrow?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Yes." I met Jess at a coffee shop 12 miles from our neighborhood. Far enough that there was no chance of Derek driving by and no chance of running into anyone either of us knew. I got there first. I picked a corner table, ordered a black coffee, and sat with my hands folded on the table like I was about to conduct a very important interview, which in a way I was. She walked in 7 minutes later. In person, she was different from her Instagram. A little quieter, a little more uncertain. She had the look of someone who had not slept well and was trying not to show it. She scanned the room, found me, and walked over with the careful posture of someone approaching a situation they're not sure is safe. She sat down. We looked at each other. "Hi," I said. "Hi," she said. A beat. "How long?" I asked. 8 months, she said. "Since March." 8 months. We'd been in this house for 4, which meant it had started 4 months before we'd even moved in, before we'd signed the papers, before I'd handed over 60% of my life savings. He had been planning both things simultaneously. We talked for 2 hours. I have had difficult conversations in my life. I have told families things no family wants to hear. I have had conversations that required every ounce of composure I had. But sitting across from Jess and methodically comparing notes on a man we had both trusted was its own specific kind of awful, not because of anger, but because of the relentless, accumulating sameness of it all. He had told her he was a homeowner. True, technically. He had told her he lived with a female roommate, who he'd had a complicated history with, but they were essentially strangers now, just splitting costs. He had told her he was saving up to get his own place. He had shown her the Elmwood listings. He had told her she was the first person in a long time who made him feel understood. I looked at her when she said that last part. "He told me that too," I said. Exact words. "The first person in a long time who makes me feel understood." She set her coffee cup down very carefully. "When did he tell you that?" "About 8 months into our relationship." She did the math. I watched her do it. "He said it to me the first month we were together," she said quietly. It wasn't even original. He hadn't even bothered to customize the script. Just recycled the same line, same delivery, different audience. "Did he ever tell you he loved you and then 30 minutes later, pick a fight over something small so that you ended up apologizing?" I asked. Her eyes went very still. "The dishes," she said. "He always made it about the dishes." "Laundry," I said. "For me, it was laundry." She pressed her fingers over her mouth. "The thing about comparing notes with the other woman, the thing nobody tells you, is that it stops being about jealousy very quickly, because you're not looking at a rival. You're looking at a mirror, and what you see in it is both of you. Smaller than you should be, shaped by the same hands, and neither of you knowing it." About an hour in, I told her about the emails, that she's putting in 60% email, the Elmwood listings, that she won't see it coming. I watched the color change in her face. "He told me he was saving money," she said slowly. "He said the roommate situation was actually saving him a ton of money, and he was putting it all away. He said by spring he'd have enough to—" She stopped. "To put down on the Elmwood place," I finished. She nodded. "He wasn't saving money," I said. "He was letting me pay the mortgage while he kept his income liquid. He was planning to walk away from a house that I own, with savings he built on my dime, and start fresh with you. And you had no idea. You were the finish line of a financial plan." Jess stared at the table. "I feel sick," she said. "I know," I said. "Me too. But here's the thing, Jess." I leaned forward slightly. "We can feel sick later. Right now I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer." She looked up. "How do you feel?" I said. "About helping me make sure he doesn't walk away from this with anything he didn't earn?" The plan took shape over the next 48 hours. It was not dramatic. It was not illegal. It was, in fact, precisely the kind of plan that 2 intelligent women with complementary information and nothing left to lose can build when they decide to stop reacting and start deciding. Danny's cousin Marcus had already walked me through my legal position, which was, to put it plainly, a strong. My name was primary on the mortgage. My down payment was documented. If Derek wanted to claim equity, he would need to demonstrate financial contribution in court. He could try. Marcus was very calm about what that would look like. "He put in 40% of the down payment and has paid his monthly share," Marcus said. "He has a claim. It's not nothing, but it's also not close to what she has." "What if he were to voluntarily relinquish his claim?" I asked. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That would need to be in writing, signed, witnessed, and he would need to do it without being coerced, so the circumstances would matter. What if he did it because it was clearly the better option than the alternative?" Marcus looked at me for a moment. "Then it would be perfectly legal," he said carefully. "And I could have the paperwork ready in 24 hours. Jess's contribution to the plan was simpler. She was going to end it, not in a text, in person, at our house, which she had been coming to for 8 months without knowing what it really was. She was going to come on Saturday night, her usual time, and she was going to tell Derek it was over. And she was going to do it knowing that I was not at work. I was going to be sitting in the kitchen, waiting. Saturday arrived the way days do when you've been building toward them, faster and slower at once. Each hour waited differently than normal. I called in for my shift. First time in 2 years. I'd called in for something that wasn't a genuine emergency. I decided this qualified. By 9 p.m., I was in my kitchen with a cup of coffee, Marcus's paperwork in a manila envelope on the table, and the security app open on my iPad. At 9:07, the motion sensor above the front door triggered. Jess had arrived. I heard the knock. I heard Derek get up from the couch, the particular creak of the third cushion from the left that I knew as well as my own heartbeat. I heard him cross the living room. I heard the door open, and then I heard his voice do something I had never heard it do before in 3 years. It faltered. Jess, hey, you're early? Can I come in? Her voice was steady. We had practiced this. Not word for word, she wasn't performing a script, but we had talked about what she needed to say and how to say it, and she had the quiet, resolved energy of someone who had spent 48 hours getting very clear on exactly who she was and what she was no longer willing to be. Yeah, of course, come. He stopped. Because she had walked into the living room and turned to face him, and the kitchen light was on, and I was standing in the kitchen doorway. The expression on Derek's face was, I will admit, worth every single difficult moment of the previous week. It was not guilt. Guilt was too simple. It was something more complex, a rapid, visible recalculation, like a man who has just realized the building he's standing in has a different floor plan than the one he memorized. His eyes went to me, then to Jess, then back to me. His mouth opened. Kayla, sit down, Derek, I said. Conversational, calm, the voice I use when a patient is escalating and I need to be the stillest thing in the room. He sat down. Jess sat across from him. I stayed in the kitchen doorway, not sitting, not advancing, just present. A fact in the room he couldn't explain away. Jess spoke first. She told him she knew. Not everything. She didn't lay out every detail, because this was not a trial and she didn't owe him a thorough accounting of her own pain. She told him she knew about me. She knew about the house. She knew that she had been walking into a home that belonged to his girlfriend for 8 months while believing she was visiting a roommate situation. She told him she was done. She told him clearly and without raised voice and without tears, though I knew, because she'd told me that she had spent most of Thursday night crying and was simply out of tears by Saturday. And then she said, I don't want an explanation. I want you to know that I know. And I want you to know that I know because Kayla reached out to me and treated me with more decency in one conversation than you did in 8 months. She stood up. She looked at him one more time with an expression. I recognized the look of someone filing something away, locking it, deciding they're done carrying it. Then she looked at me. I nodded. She walked out. The door closed behind her with a quiet, definitive click. Derek and I were alone. He turned to look at me and opened his mouth, and I held up one hand. I'm going to save us both some time, I said. I'm not interested in the explanation. I've seen the emails, Derek. I know about Elmwood. I know about the timeline. I know exactly what this house was to you and what I was to you. And I want you to understand that what happens in the next 10 minutes determines how difficult the next several months of your life are going to be. He went very still. I walked to the kitchen table and picked up the manila envelope. I carried it to the coffee table and set it in front of him. That is a legal document prepared by a real estate attorney, I said. It formalizes your voluntary relinquishment of equity claim on this property in exchange for your name being removed from any financial liability associated with it. You walk away clean. No debt, no obligation, no court. He stared at the envelope. And if I don't sign it, then we go to court, I said simply, where I will present documentation of your financial contributions versus mine, emails in which you referred to me as a financing source for a home you intended to share with another woman, and a pattern of behavior that any family court judge in Ohio is going to find, at minimum, deeply relevant to an equitable distribution proceeding. You'll spend money on a lawyer. It will take months. And at the end of it, you will still get less than what's in that envelope, which is a clean exit. I sat down in the armchair across from him. I'm not doing this out of anger, I said. I want you to hear that. I'm doing this because you made financial and personal decisions that affected my life without my knowledge or consent, and I am not going to absorb the consequences of that quietly. This is me not absorbing them quietly. He picked up the envelope. He opened it. He read it, actually read it, which I had expected, because Derek was not a stupid man, just a dishonest one. He set it back down. I need a day, he said. You have until Monday morning, I said. Marcus, my attorney, is available to answer any questions you have. His number is on the back page. I stood up. You can stay in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, I'd like you to start making arrangements to move your things out. I'll give you 2 weeks. I walked back to the kitchen. I poured myself a cup of coffee, and I listened to Derek sit in the living room of my house in complete silence for a very long time. He signed on Sunday afternoon. He didn't call Marcus. He didn't lawyer up. I think he understood in the end that the math wasn't in his favor, not legally. and not in any other way either. He signed, and I scanned the document, and Marcus confirmed it was valid, and that was that. He was out of the house in 11 days, slightly faster than the 2 weeks I'd given him. He took what was his, or which was less than he'd planned on, more than he deserved, and exactly what he'd agreed to. I watched the last of his boxes go into his friend's truck from the kitchen window, and when the truck pulled out of my driveway, I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Space. Just space. In my house, in my chest, in my life. The specific relief of a thing that had been pressing on you quietly for so long you'd forgotten what it felt like without it. Jess and I stayed in contact. That surprises people when I tell them. They expect rivalry, or at minimum, awkward distance. But we had both been lied to by the same person in the same ways. And there is a particular bond in that which doesn't need much explanation. We got coffee a few times. She was funny. Once she wasn't operating under the weight of a relationship built on fiction. She was in therapy, processing her own version of the aftermath. She texted me 3 months later. Started seeing someone new. He's aggressively honest. It's weird and I love it. I sent back same energy. Hold on to it. I want to tell you where I am now. It's been 7 months since the Sunday he signed. The house is mine. Not technically, not on paper, but in the way that matters, in my bones, in the way I walk through it, in the way I've slowly made every room more mine and less ours. I repainted the living room, not because I didn't like the color, but because I wanted to. It's called Honest Blue now. Different brand, different shade, but close enough that you'd have to know to notice. I'm back on my night shifts, Thursday through Sunday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I come home Monday mornings to a quiet house, a garden that is genuinely coming together, and a coffee maker that I programmed the night before, so it's waiting for me when I walk in. Small thing, just for me. No one else in the house to not save me any. The earring is still on my windowsill above the kitchen sink. I keep meaning to throw it away. I don't, because it has become, in my mind, a small and slightly absurd monument to the thing I almost didn't do, the almost throwaway, the almost ignore, the almost let it go. I look at it sometimes when I'm washing dishes, and I think good thing I looked.